Hello, everybody, and welcome back. If you've been with us at any of the other events today, the Omi Futures 2021, brought to you by the Retail Bulletin. If you've just joined us, you're also very welcome as well. If you've been at all 5 of the events today, you've done brilliantly, and thank you for sticking with us as well. We hope you found it to be a really engaging, albeit virtual day as well. The screen is now on, so we are live. Let me just go to gallery view. Hello from me, Darren Williams. This is my dog Scamp, who may or may not disrupt proceedings. I'm hoping by giving her some love and some fuss right now at the start, that she will be satisfied by that, but she does like to steal a bit of airtime. So as I said, this is our final session of the day, webinar number 4, the future leverage of brand awareness across platforms. We do these events with sponsorship. And so we really do appreciate our sponsors. They are Limworks, Zip, Aptos, Nuxeo. We have Alan from there today, and Clayvu as well. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors. We genuinely do appreciate you, because you actually do make these events happen. I'm the founder of a consultancy called Williams Harding. I work with a number of different businesses across retail and hospitality. And I'm also the chairman of a men's skincare brand called Scrubbed. And so life is busy, and I keep myself fully occupied by doing some of these events as well. And I'm very grateful to the Retail Bulletin to have me back and have me presenting some more of these events. I always really enjoy them. And I enjoy them because I get to speak to people like these 4 wonderful people you see on the screen in front of you. So by order of the program that we published, I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves before we crack into the main event. Bunty, hello. Tell us about who you are.
Hi, thank you, Darren. My name's Bunty Stokes. I've just recently joined Asquith as the new managing director. Asquith London, for those who don't know, is an ethical, sustainable lifestyle brand trading in the athleisure, yoga, Pilates and loungewear sector, obviously very poignant and a growth sector for the moment. I've been in fashion for 30 years and e-commerce since 2000, so just over 20 years. And prior to Asquith, I was at TJX for nearly 10 years. I launched Brand Alley UK, relaunched Bon Privé UK, and more recently, managing director of Sanuva Limited.
Quite the career. And how long have you been at Asquith now?
Literally joined this year, so started on the 6th of January. So a lockdown new appointment, which is very exciting.
Happy New Year, happy new job and all that.
Okay,
well, welcome to the panel. Great to have you here as well.
Thank you.
Claire, you're next on the list. Tell us about you.
Hi, thanks, Darren. I'm Claire Burrows. I'm the founder of Air & Grace. We're a premium women's footwear brand, also ethical, sustainable, responsible, part of the slow fashion movement. Our kind of real benefit of our shoes is that they are, according to the Sunday Times style, astonishingly comfortable, and I like with them. And that's because we have a patented technology called Tender Living Air that is inside our shoes that makes them feel like walking on air. I've been in the fashion industry for about 25 years, working as a buyer and designer, and with brands from Kurt Geiger to FitFlop, so quite varied. We're a digital first brand. We ventured into wholesale, but we have recently then closed down that channel as a result of 2020, and we're now focusing purely online in our direct consumer website. Growth-wise, we've done about 70% year on year consistently since we started in 2014. Launched when we won a competition searching for the brands of tomorrow, which gave me the investment to start and take the leap of faith to go it alone.
Did you close that channel because of the pandemic, or was it something you were looking at already?
We were looking at it already, but it basically expedited that decision.
Accelerated by.
It made us do it a lot quicker. The wholesale calendar we find is really outdated. You know, sort of 4 collections a year doesn't make any sense any longer. We're very much about our products having longevity. So creating newness all the time just doesn't seem to fit with our brand values. And it was only ever sort of like 80, 90%, sorry, wholesale was only ever 10 to 20% our business, and it felt a little bit like the tail was wagging the dog. So
yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. I think it's a good lesson there about sort of being faithful to your core as well, kind of thing,
very
and
much, yeah.
focusing on what's important. Welcome. Nice to have you with us, Claire. Neil, you're next on the list. Tell us about you, sir.
Yes. Well, thanks for having me on. Good to see your smiley face again. Been a few years since we were on a panel, but so I've been around the retail and latterly the e-commerce space for all my career. Started out in department stores, House of Fraser, head of merchandising at Selfridges, moved there to a brand some of you may know, Emma Bridgewater. So got my hands dirty in the pottery sector, and then ran a retail consultancy and advisory firm, actually based in Dubai, but across the whole of the GCC region for about 8 years. Started dabbling in marketplaces around 2012, and then set up a marketplace specific agency in 2014 here in the UK. And more recently have just launched my own marketplace for global CBD and alternative wellness and health products and brands, which is called Mellow. And we just closed a recent EIS round of funding, and are ready to kind of put our foot on the gas with regards to sort of customer acquisition and driving some traction through that platform.
And so the EIS raised everything you needed it to do to take the business forward.
Yeah. Bunty got a new job during lockdown, and we did a fundraise during lockdown. So we've been probably two of the busiest people around. But it was COVID obviously had a pretty impactful role to play in consumers' awareness of alternative wellness products, and trying to move away from kind of big pharma to help them with whatever ailments or problems they have, whether it's lack of sleep or stress or whatever, anxiety around job security, whatever. So yeah, that certainly played a part, and the sort of broader cannabis sector is having a bit of a moment. So yeah, we were fortunate that we timed it quite well, and long may that continue, hopefully.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, Neil. Thanks for joining the panel today. Good to have you here on the team. And Alan, last but not least, one of our sponsors as well. So thanks again. Introduce yourself.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to sponsor the event. And so my name's Alan Porter. I'm actually, despite the accent, I'm actually calling in from Texas, where I've lived for a couple of decades now. So it's early in the morning for me, but it's great to be with you guys. I'm the product marketing manager for Nuxeo, as you said, one of the sponsors of the event. I'm not sort of work directly in retail like the rest of you guys. I'm more on the sort of the back office side. Nuxeo is a content services platform, and among our major clients, we have a lot of apparel, footwear, and high-profile retail brands and consumer packaged good brands that we are really helping. And really, we've seen a real acceleration in a lot of folks' digital transformation programs over the last 12 months. So I think recent events have really accelerated a lot of things that a lot of folks in the retail industry that we deal with were looking to do. And things are happening very quickly. So we've also had a very busy year.
Living in the US for?
Just coming up for 25 years.
Oh, just a little 25 years.
Yeah, we said we were going to come for 3 and see if we liked it. So I guess we liked it.
Guess you liked it. And what time is it over there right now?
For me, it's just gone 10 a.m. So
okay, so you're just an hour behind East Coast, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And whereabouts in Texas are you?
Just outside of Austin, Texas. So.
Okay. No, I haven't been to Texas for years. I used to work on the East and West Coast a lot, but I've never worked in Texas other than been there as a tourist. And I did Dallas and Houston, but I was a very young man. So it seems like a long time ago. It's a state I'd like to certainly rediscover more of. I want to do all the states one day. It's one of my bucket list things.
Yeah.
Every single one.
I'm with you. I've got 4 left that I haven't done yet. So.
Is it feeling a bit calmer out there, sort of post-Trump, or not? It still feels very polarized on the news, and when I talk to my colleagues.
Yes, it's still there's still a degree of uncertainty in the air. Let's put it that way.
Do you get? I will change the subject from the US in a second. Do you get to vote or not?
Sorry?
Are you allowed to vote?
Oh yeah, I'm a citizen. You're
a citizen. Okay, well, you're not just on long-term residency. You're a fully fledged card carrier.
No, I have 2 blue passports. So let's put it that way. So.
Got it. Okay. Well, listen. Welcome and thank you for being with us today. Right, let's get going. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, how many of there are you? I won't read the number out. Let's just see whether there's enough for you to care about. That's good. We need to keep you interested. So please do use the Q&A function. If you're on a tablet, it tends to be at the top of the screen. If you're on a desktop, you'll find a Q&A at the bottom of the screen. Do use it. We've been getting some great engagement on that throughout the day. And feel free to pick on a panelist and direct your question at one of these people, or you might want to ask a more general question for all of the panel to consider. If there's something that you burningly want to know about one of the businesses or one of the people, ask it. But yes, please do get involved. If you see me fiddling around with my screen, it's because I'm monitoring the chat and the Q&A at all times to make sure that we do cover everything that gets asked. But without further ado, I'm going to get going. And I'm going to start with you, Bunty. So you've just changed roles. So early days for you at Asquith, but can you comment on behalf of the brand about any sort of adjustment they may have made around their marketing approach in line with the changes of habits over the last 12 months?
Well, actually, one of the reasons I got involved in the business is because I certainly, while a lot of businesses last year focused on survival, Asquith actually had a good year, really solid double-digit growth, which is great. Asquith has been going for 20 years, and like Claire, a larger proportion of the business is digital, actually 70%. And while wholesale didn't erode last year, thankfully, mostly because a big part of the Asquith's business is entrenched in yoga studios or yoga platforms like Yoga Matters. What we did say is a real change in how our customers discovered us. And actually, we saw a big change in our customer demographic. So traditionally, our business has been very much focused on a sort of 35 plus market in terms of age. And we discovered that we were attracting a younger audience last year. Our 18 to 24 audience grew from 6% to 12% in 1 year, just overnight, 200% growth. And we figured when we drilled down and understood where the customer was coming from, it was on the back of the fact that at the point that lockdown happened, we started streaming yoga lessons, yoga classes online. And obviously the demand for that kind of content at the beginning of lockdown and the attraction that drove and the customer demographic that drove as a result had a massive impact, we think, on the change in our demographic.
We're hearing that a lot today, actually, that some of these experiences have been moved online. What you would have done physically before is still being made available, but digitally.
Yeah, and actually, if you think about, I'm sure it was, and I say this with love, I'm sure while there was some planning in that, there was also a lot of serendipity involved. The yoga teachers had nowhere to study, nowhere to practice, they had no forum to practice. And because these are really strong ambassadors for our brand, naturally, actually, giving them a forum in Instagram and Facebook and live classes and recorded classes definitely gave them the opportunity to practice. Obviously, the demand for wellness, fitness, thank you, Joe Wicks, and everything around keeping yourself busy, occupied within the home was a massive help for us. But having these ambassadors for us definitely drove a much wider audience than we perhaps had anticipated.
It's really interesting, isn't it? And I think beautiful segue, if you don't mind, into Claire, because I was going to say to you, Erin Grace, you've got a very loyal customer, and they're obviously incredibly valuable to you. But what role has tech played in kind of continuing to build that loyalty and engagement with the customers?
We've been really, really lucky that our customers, they are very, very loyal. And like Bunty was saying, that they are our brand ambassadors, and one of the things that they've done for us, and we've been amazed at the support we've had from our community, is to share for us. So there's an awful lot of kind of like peer-to-peer on social media where people are posting photographs of our shoes and telling each other how comfortable they are and how much they love them. And it's great because they're kind of doing our job for us. And then we also share a lot of that as well. We've used reviews are amazing for us too. We review sites because people really will research the shoes and product a lot and see what everybody else is saying before they actually make their decision to purchase. And then it's our job to make sure that, you know, we delight them when those shoes arrive. We reframed our loyalty app as well, actually, during lockdown. We reframed it. It hadn't quite worked for us, and we didn't understand why, because we had a really great loyal customer base, but they weren't actually engaging with our loyalty club. So we turned it into the members club, and that's actually been far more successful for us. We created a new page for it. We communicated it in a way that was much easier for them to understand. And they've really engaged with that going forwards as well. You know, Refer a Friend has been a really great channel for us since then.
It's fantastic. And I guess if you're having that kind of two-way dialogue still through this process of using tech as well, you're getting some positive reinforcement back from your customers that you're on the right track, yeah? Oh
yeah, amazing. I mean, we've been using our channels on social so much more through lockdown as well. You know, we're really, really close to the customer, but we've become closer. You know, we post out this week just of some colour cards that I was working on for new colours of shoes. And we had over 250 comments of people asking for shoes in various colours. And, you know, that's really invaluable to us because,
yeah,
you know, creating the shoes that they want, but they're also having a sort of a stakeholder in it as well. So that, you know, people feel much more kind of, I think they really feel part of the brand. And, you know, that's always going to be a win-win solution for everybody.
Neil, thank you, Claire, by the way. I feel like there's been two camps, Neil, of digital performance. There was those before the pandemic that were already good at digital, and all the pandemic has done is enabled them to sharpen, to be even better at what they were doing. And there were a big bunch of people playing catch up as well. What do you think was the bigger pot? Were people good at it and just sharpened, or do you think there was a bigger pot of people playing catch up?
I think first of all, I think the guys that have sharpened have also seen a massive increase in their people of adopting that technology. So they've kind of got better and bigger at the same time. Maybe just taking the conversation maybe away from me slightly, probably not the ideal of this, but we're doing some work with a student-specific marketing agency. Pre-COVID, they were an on-campus physical events company. COVID has revolutionized their business. They're now a digital-only events company, and they've gone from doing 25 events a week to about 350. And something that they didn't ever anticipate, but the way in which they can generate fantastic online content and directly market to students in the UK that are stuck in their dorms with nothing to do is fantastic. And I think that is sort of typifies how people and companies have looked at, or I guess, scraped away the old and found new opportunities. And so I guess to your point around, everyone has had to tweak their business a little bit to try and understand where the new opportunity lies. And maybe just getting back to Claire's point as well, that sort of what I tend to call that customer generated content is almost if you're trying to attract new customers, it's a validation of brand and it's a validation of product. And for Claire, I mean, that must be fantastic to have customers to say, I want sneakers in this color or this fabric or this design, because bang, you can just go away and design it straight away. If only your supply chain were that quickly, Claire. It works that quickly. I think
I did actually get them in that afternoon.
Yeah, just go and knock a few pairs up. But you know, there's been winners everywhere. Unfortunately, there's obviously people that haven't been able to adapt their business as well. But I think there's been a bit of both, Darren. Sorry, to try and answer your question very specifically. Those that have grown and sharpened, and those that have had to kind of tweak and adjust.
Sort of a fairly equal split of the two.
Yeah.
Alan, coming to you in the US. So the way that people experience online, you know, expectations are rising, I think, all the time. How important is really rich media in building that engagement with customers in the digital space?
It's really become if you like, the glue. It's become the prime way. We did a lot of research actually just around the time COVID was beginning. We did a couple of surveys and some did some research and funded some research around buying habits, and rich media at that point, people were looking, you know, we found around 50% of people, they wanted photographs, they wanted video. Both Claire and Bunty have talked about how important that's become. And that was sort of just as COVID was kicking off. But as more and more people have got into lockdown, we found that's become really, really more important, that having that rich media, having video, having interactive stuff has become really vital. It's replacing the in-person activity. Really, content has become the customer experience, the brand experience, and it's not just about marketing anymore. It's every part of the supply chain, every touch point with the customer, be it social media, be it marketing, be it ordering, even down to things like making invoicing and being able to pay online. A much better experience is becoming really part of the key customer experience. And I was interested in what Bunty said about finding the sort of the younger demographic, because a lot of the research we showed was, you know, on general, it was about 50% of people wanted rich media and video, but it was a much bigger percentage in the younger demographic. And also, you know, Claire was talking about the interaction. We found really a lot of the companies that have really got it have moved away from content as a broadcast. It's no longer just broadcasting stuff to say how great we are. It's putting out content that's relevant and is engaging and is actually driving conversation. And a lot of what we're seeing is actually content is becoming a conversation now, rather than it just being something that you push out to show the product, or, you know, push your own message out there. It's really become a two-way street, if you like.
It's that old saying that content is king, underlined.
Yeah, but they always say distribution is queen. So
right, there you go. Content is king, distribution is queen. I will try and there you go. If you take nothing away from this panel today other than that, then it's been time well spent.
You've opened up a new business opportunity, content as a service. You know, I think
we had another one earlier on, which was lift and shift, which I've made a note of as well. There you go.
That's a good IT phrase. Yes, that's a good IT.
Good. We've had our question actually, which is a general question. So this is from Kevin at Worldline. Thanks, Kevin. So I'll start with you, Bunty, if I may. What tech have the panelists considered or are considering to handle the pent-up demand for their products when lockdown finally ends? Thanks, Kevin. Bunty, your thoughts?
Well, we're still a young, well, I'm not a young business, but we're still a small business. So for us, what we have to be mindful of is that we're in a sector where actually, because of the demand, there's also a lot of players who are now shifting their supply into our sector. So if you look at what's going on with a number of brands, especially fashion brands, they're now looking at widening their collections and their proposition to incorporate athleisure or loungewear. And so I guess our challenge, because obviously as a small brand, we're competing with much bigger players who are much more obviously can afford much more next gen technology, is how we actually consider the current channels and utilize those to their full potential, because we still haven't done that. So for us, it's about understanding which channels our new customer is discovering us from, and whether we're really exploring everything that that channel can give us, i.e., you know, the shop now buttons, through to actually ensuring that we don't alienate our existing loyal customer, because there is a big difference. You know, 18 to 24, 12% of our current demographic, but we've still got, you know, really as many people with 65 plus age group who are actually converting at twice the rate of those guys. So we have to have a really fine balance. And I guess a lot of what we're doing, and content will be a big part of that, is having to reiterate some of our brand values around sustainability, around ethics, around responsibility, looking at how we can actually grow a much more community orientated message, rather than relying specifically on technology to do that. So
it's a really good point.
It's actually, given the values of our business, that's probably the message and the way we do it. and how we apply ourselves on our current platforms, and even exploring new platforms. You know, if you think about TikTok, we haven't even touched TikTok. Is it relevant to our brand? Well, actually, our demographic, our new demographics is suggesting it might very well be. So exploring more of what we're doing to really optimize those channels, and actually what other channels that are applicable to our new customers without alienating our old customers, to really drill home our values, our purpose as an ethical, sustainable business.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Sort of like, you know, embrace tech as and when your business and your customer is ready for it as well. You've brought back memories of when I used to lead the London business in Argos. It feels like a moon ago now, but I had a fabulous couple of years at Argos. I loved it. And when we started to kind of withdraw the laminated book of dreams and go a bit more digital and have screens instead of the catalogue, we had a big kickback, you know, because we hadn't actually really thought about how our customers feel about it. We just did it. And lots of our shoppers like shopping with the old laminated book of dreams. So it was a really good example.
And it's a good point, because actually direct mail is still a really important driver of traffic, revenue, audience to us. And obviously, given lockdown, it's not all about screens. If anything, I would suggest that people are trying to do less screen work because we're all on screens all day doing stuff like this. So actually, to have a really lovely you know, hard copy of something that is more than just a catalogue. So thinking about how that can become a really good vehicle for us, that gives some tactile nature to what we're doing in a time when we can't go into shops and be tactile with product. So just thinking a little bit more laterally about it, and it's not
a really great answer
about technology.
Thank you, Bunty. Claire, I'm going to put the same thing to you. So, Kevin,
sorry, I was going to say, if I could just jump in there from a technology.
Yeah, sure.
Because we're a marketplace, we're kind of a tech company first, and everything else kind of comes second. And so we got loads of tech kind of hanging off the platform. We've almost gone a bit old school. We're a very, very young company as well. So kind of trying out all sorts of different stuff. But actually, what we've been able to do is monetize SMS much more so than we ever thought we would. And I never thought I would be sat here saying this, but we've got the technology whereby we can message you and say, Darren, last month you bought X, do you want the same thing again? And as soon as you reply yes, we can just push the order through and send it out to you. We've had fantastic response rate through very basic SMS communications. And so actually, I kind of feel like we've regressed a bit in technology in a way by going back to that kind of communication method, but it's a really responsive way because people get back to you on SMS, you know, almost immediately. So sorry, I didn't want to sort of butt in, but
no, that's great. I mean, yeah, that's perfectly relevant to the subject matter we were talking about. So thank you, Claire. So Kevin's question to you. I mean, what tech are you considering, or are considering, or are using for the post-lockdown world?
Absolutely loads. We had our head of digital join us during lockdown. So it was a new role that we created because we were outsourcing our digital marketing, and we brought it in-house because it was becoming kind of too big to outsource. And it was too important for us as, you know, sort of the key revenue driver. And she started in April 2020 and has a list like this. So we are looking at lots and lots of things at the moment. I mean, one of the things we've been doing is looking at, you know, sort of improving the website, so the customer journey, and allowing them to be able to search for products better, because we realized as our range had got bigger and we were adding more categories like house shoes, so we wanted people to be able to find stuff better because it wasn't really functioning as efficiently as it could, and that went live today. Not without its glitches. We are also putting something new to us in called Retain Me, which is basically marketing inserts that go in the box with the orders, and that then sort of has all of the information and it's all custom generated for the user. So if somebody's bought X, then we may show them Y because we think that might be what they're interested in, and we can also get to tell them more about the brand and the product themselves and how to look after them. So it's kind of like really sort of looking after them sort of post-purchase as well. That's something that's going live next month. We're looking at a new CRM system. We're looking at got a lot going on. I mean, we're mostly sort of like our growth has been driven by paid social, as well as organic. And we're just a little bit worried really about that, about being dependent on that channel. And that's why we're sort of like branching out into looking at lots of new ways to raise brand awareness at the moment.
Lots happening at Aaron Grace then.
Yeah, we're always busy.
Just a small amount. Alan, I'll just slightly rephrase the question for you. So is there tech that you would recommend that retailers should be looking at for any pent-up demand in the future?
It probably really applies to the larger retailers, but what we're seeing a lot of our retail customers really get excited about and start using is artificial intelligence and machine learning. To go back and look at all the archives and all the stuff that they've built around their products and all the photography and the video and all the content that they've generated over the years. Coming down to what Claire was just saying about, making it easier for people to find things, putting the right information against the photography, against the video and stuff. And when you've got a database of, tens of thousands of photographs going back decades, that's a very manual intensive process to go through that. So a lot of our customers are starting to use machine learning and artificial intelligence to pull things out of their imagery, and also doing some of the recommendation stuff that Claire was just talking about. Again, using it to, if there's a picture of a model wearing a shirt, is understanding that in that photograph they've also got shorts and a belt and maybe a baseball cap, that they can start plugging in using AI to recognize what those products are, link them to the product information, put them out on the search, so you can do that recommendation. Oh, if you're buying this shirt, maybe you would like to get this matching baseball cap or these shorts that you see our model wearing and things like that. So we're doing a lot with that as well. And by doing that alongside the subject matter experts, we're seeing it done at a speed and a scale that you could never have done previously. So if there's one area that we're seeing an awful lot of interest in application of technology at the moment to address that, it is certainly around machine learning. So
thank you, sir. That's a very useful answer indeed. We've had another. That's my dog. We've had another question. Right on time. We've had another question come in from an anonymous guest. Thank you again. They're saying they're a startup, and is it the right time to spend money on branding? So yeah, I am a startup, and is it the right time to me to spend money on branding? I'm going to ask all of you. Bunty, you first, please.
Yes and no. I mean, I would say that actually, as a startup, you probably will find or discover that a lot of the answers to your questions around brand lie within your business and within your customer base anyway. So going to a brand agency necessarily and starting to do a massive branding exercise might not always be the best way of starting. There's a huge amount of data at your fingertips to learn how the customer engages, understanding what the competition is doing, understanding what the natural links to your own social channels are. I think certainly when I joined Asquith, the first thing I did was a branding exercise for sure, mostly because I needed to learn what Asquith was all about and understand a bit more about the customer base. And the insight that the team and the data provided me gave me a really good solid starting point. I also think that for us as well, we're looking at our branding in terms of language, tone of voice, because we are having to look at preaching to a wider audience. And because of that, we need to ensure that we, as I said before, don't alienate our existing loyal customers, but we are speaking and approaching new audiences in a way that not only reiterates our brand values and really amplifies them, and that's a big piece for us, especially around ethics and sustainability. But again, just trying to put our head above the parapet from a building a community perspective. And what we're seeing, and I've talked to other brands about this, is a much more emotive approach to how you connect with the customers, because we're in a time when people can't be as sociable, aren't as tactile, can't be as connected. So it's finding the connectivity as a brand to your customer base. So it's important to know who you are as a brand for sure. I wouldn't spend a load of money on it, because I think you'll probably find the answers are actually within your customer base and actually within your immediate community anyway.
Got it. Thank you so much for that. Claire, what would your advice be to a startup asking whether they should spend money on branding?
I couldn't agree with Bunty more. Yes, you do need to spend some money at the beginning, because the identity has to look polished enough for you to be proud of. But you can spend a huge amount of money, and I don't think that's necessary at the first stages for a startup. It really, I'm a firm believer that, you know, most of the answers you have yourself. There's nobody out there who's got, you know, the magic bullet that will tell you exactly what you need to do. You really like look at what you want to create. And I think, again, you know, to my point earlier about asking the audience, you know, if you're building your audience on Instagram, ask them what they want to see. And, you know, again, you've got your sort of ready-made market research there. So use it and only spend what you can afford. That's the biggest thing. You don't think that just because you've spent loads of money on branding that it's going to work for you. It just really needs to be done at the pace that you can afford to do it, and use what you've got around you.
Someone's just said something very nice about your brand, actually. Claire Ali has just said to let you know that she loves the Aaron Grace brand, loves the content in your Instagram highlights, and finds them so useful. So that's nice, isn't it?
Oh, thank you, Ali. That's nice.
And we also, the previous questioner said thanks to all of you. Kevin said thank you, and your answers were very insightful. So we're getting lots of love on the final session of the day. Neil, you've just been through this. You've just done a startup, or you are starting up. What did you do about branding? What would you advise our questioner?
Yeah, I was actually going to try and come at this just from a personal perspective. We didn't really have any money to do anything, which I guess is probably, unless you're extremely lucky, probably the situation that almost every startup finds themselves in. I'm the least creative person in the room nearly always, and so I tend to lean on either other people or what I know, or try and understand what's in me that's driven me to build and start a company, because often it's that will inform you around branding, and how you're going to be building and developing the site. So even Mellow is the name of our marketplace. Even then, because there is, with CBD in the sort of alternative wellness space, there's always the cannabis conversation or the elephant in the room. And we right from the bat said, we don't want any green leaves, we don't want any references to cannabis, weed, we don't want any kind of semi-stoner pipes or anything. We're nothing at all to do with that. In fact, we couldn't be any further from that sector. And so we wanted to always go down the route of suggesting that we are alternative health and wellness, and it's about helping consumers or customers overcome whatever ailments they have, whether it's a bad back, dodgy hip, headache, or period pains, whatever it might be. There is a sort of natural form of cure there. So I shouldn't really say that word, but my lawyers will have me on dodgy ground. But that's why we went down the route of Mellow and the designing and the branding. And actually, we didn't really spend any money on it at all. I think we came up with the name ourselves, my co-founder and I, over a couple of years. And then we then gave it to a few upworkers and said, just play around. And I think we paid them 100 quid each over a couple of days. And we were flooded with ideas. And then we just played around and said, okay, tweak that, change that, give us that color. We started to develop a tone of voice, a design and sort of branding document. And it all kind of naturally, or a bit of an overused term, but kind of organically kind of came together. And once you kind of settle on design, colorways, fonts, templates, that kind of stuff, we then gave it to an agency who didn't really need to do that much to it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we're a little bit clever with how we used resources and cash and funding and that kind of stuff to get to where we needed to be. That sounded like it was a very well thought out strategy, but it was just like, how can we do this in a cheap and quick and dirty, and come up with something that we're happy with? So
I think it really is your answer to the person asking the question is yes, but frugally.
Be artful.
Yeah.
Be artful and creative, because actually answers are in the business. And also the challenge you face is when you go to somebody else to help you, they're not always going to extract a genuine connection out of you. And certainly in these times, I think it is about authenticity and a genuine connection. And I don't know you get that from that, a polished brand agency approach. And I'm sorry to any brand agencies out there, but they'll present you with something incredibly finessed and polished, but actually the real answers and the genuine authentic answers lie within the business and those connected to the business.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Claire was saying about having those conversations and engaging in conversations. I've been through a couple of startups myself, and that's pretty much how we started, was just figuring out what the business problem we wanted to solve was, and then having the conversations, and the brand sort of built, or to use the phrase Neil just used, built organically out of that.
I think the reference points as well are very much. Sorry.
Go on, Claire. Go on.
Oh, thanks. The reference points are often when you're talking to an external person who's trying to create your brand with you, there will be other brands. And actually what you're trying to do is create something that's unique. So I always kind of feel it needs to come from within, and it needs to be a reflection of you and what you're trying to achieve. Obviously, you need to make sure that that has a commercial aspect to it as well. So that's where sort of asking your customers and your potential audience comes in.
Yeah.
Well, Claire, that was exactly what I was going on to say, that we, as co-founders, myself and my co-founder, every single brand that is on our platform, we have interviewed. And then for the first 100 customers, we rang every single customer. Have you got your product? Have you used it? What do you think? What's your feedback? And then the transcripts of all those interviews, we actually gave to our investors. So we could prove to them and say, look, we've had these conversations. This is what the customers want, and this is what the brands want. And we've taken all of that information, and there it is on the marketplace. And that way, there's absolutely no denying that we're delivering what customers want, and we're delivering what our sellers want. Hopefully that doesn't change too much over time.
And just to add to that, is when I actually joined, I was presented with a customer profile document, which had been essentially pulled together by a focus group, shall we say, and it couldn't be more misleading about the brand if I'd have just read it and not bothered exploring any other avenue in terms of learning about the brand. It couldn't have been more contradictory to what the team were saying, what our customers were saying about us, what our customers felt about us, and what our demographics were saying. So it's really easy to lean on outside resource to do some of the stuff that you're afraid to do, but actually it's as you go down the path, it will unravel and answers will be there in front of you.
Hold that thought, because that's going to lead quite nicely into my last panel question. So believe it or not, panel, we've got 3 minutes left. So I'm going to go around each of you and ask you some final thoughts. And I want to close around the subject of authenticity. So when we talk about leveraging brand awareness across platforms, that brand voice that we've talked about in some of the other sessions today is so important. And you can really pick out the brands that mean it and the brands that are just saying it. What would be your kind of closing words about keeping your brand authentic in the way that you communicate, not just now during a pandemic, but ongoing? What would be your top tips? Bunty, to close things off, please.
It's interesting because it's quite a poignant conversation at the moment. We currently sign off all of our comms from the team Asquith, but actually we have a very intelligent, articulate, passionate and incredibly yoga orientated, engaged female founder who has been in sustainability before people even knew how to spell it, let alone what it meant. And so actually what we need to do is start really amplifying her as the biggest ambassador our brand has, and start signing off from her. she's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to our brand. She's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this sector. She's heavily engaged, and I personally think a real pioneer when it comes to ethical, sustainable fashion. So actually, don't be afraid to personalize it. Don't be afraid to actually put a face behind the business, because especially as a smaller business as we are, we can do that. You know, some of the bigger businesses can't give you the CEO's email address, because guess what, there's going to be an awful lot of emails, and obviously a big challenge. So I would not be afraid in these current climes to actually own the business, especially if you're a business owner, and make it and really consider that it is your baby, and therefore it's okay for you to behave in a way that it is your baby. And I think, Claire, you do that really brilliantly.
Bunty, thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for your experience and input into the panel today. I've really enjoyed hearing from you. Thank you. Claire, over to you. Authenticity. Unpack it for us.
Bunty again. Yeah, I mean, our brands are quite similar. We're in a sort of like same sort of customer space as well. But for me, it's very much about be yourself. You know, don't try and be anybody else, because that's when, you know, how can you sort of like create a tone of voice if you're an answer, you know, with sort of authenticity, if you're actually sort of trying to be someone else. So we made a decision a long time ago that, you know, we treat all of our customers as friends. I actually write them our VIPs get handwritten Christmas cards from us every year. And they love that. They're just so overjoyed by it.
Those little small touches.
Also, you know, sort of we've got sort of over 80,000 followers on Instagram, and we really engage with them, and more so actually throughout 2020. And it's something that we've really enjoyed, and we're going to carry on doing more of. You know, behind the scenes content does so well for us. Asking the audience to guide us in some decisions, you know, that works really well for us, and we really see it, you know, sort of that's the way we want to go more of. And exactly what Bunty said about, you know, keeping it really personal. There's a joy to being a smaller brand, and that's what I really like about it.
Well, thank you, and thanks for your contribution to the panel today as well. And you had some fan mail at the same time as well. So what more could you want? Thank you for today. Neil, wrap things up for us on your view of the authenticity. I can't even say it. The authenticity debate. Thanks.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think we're going to all be saying somewhat the same thing, and I know on panel discussions that can be a little bit annoying for an audience, but I almost just want to say what they said. Because we've recently been through it in that we were pushing out some content, and I didn't really believe it. I turned to my co-founder and I said, "Would you say that? Would you find yourself saying that?" He goes, "No." And so we pulled the plug on it. So getting back to, I think both Claire and Bunty said it, you've got to get back to the fact that would you find yourself saying it, or do you believe in what you're putting out there? And if you don't, then you're not being authentic to the brand, because effectively as founders or co-founders, you know, you are the brand, you embody everything that you're building, and therefore don't quite believe what you're putting out there. You're not being authentic to your customers either, and they will notice that straight away. So you've got to believe in what you're doing, you've got to believe in what you put out there, and don't push content in whatever format, whether it's written, whether it's video, whether it's blogs, whether it's TikTok, Bunty. You know, if it's
thanks, Neil, and thanks today. And listen, good luck with the Mellow.store as well. I'll check it out.
Thanks
very much. Maybe it will help my runner's knee. I'll have a look. Alan,
there's product on its way.
Okay, Alan, over in Texas, and as one of our sponsors, it feels right that you're the final word on this subject. What's your view?
I could just say ditto to everything that's already said. I will say, I'm just going to sort of talk a bit about Nuxeo as a company. Nuxeo has a very open philosophy. We literally put everything out on the web, open, all our documentation, all our stuff for actually building. You can actually download the base platform for free. Everything is out there for Nuxeo. And that sort of goes to the way that we as employees, we're one big family. We work as a family, and we bring our customers in as a family. And I think it comes back down to what was talked about earlier. If it's not something that you're not comfortable saying or putting out there as you as a person, just don't do it. Just, you know, reflect who you are as an individual, reflect who you are as a company, stick to your core values, and Yeah.
The perfect ending.
Be open
Thank
and
you.
transparent. So
Say again.
be open and transparent. That's what I've always tried to do.
Good closing words. Thank you so much. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, Limwork, Zip, Aptos, Nuxeo and Clayview. You've been great in helping today come to life. And to my esteemed panel, as you can see, I'm being properly interfered with now. So thank you, Bunty and Claire and Neil and Alan, for wrapping up ultimately what is always the toughest session, the last one of the day. And guess what? You held your audience, you got fan mail, and you got Q&A. So I think you can say a job well done. That completes the set of events from the Retail Bulletin today. We've done a brilliant 5 webinars in total with brilliant engagement. So thank you for coming along on the journey with us today. Do connect with me on LinkedIn and say hi to Scamp. I'll maybe set up our own profile sometime as well. But thank you for your time. Thanks to my panelists again, and have a brilliant Wednesday evening. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.